So, here we go with the last session of the day, only day 2. I hope you're not even thinking of tiring. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're following this on the World Wide Web, we're in New York City still. It's day 2 of the 5th Cloud Expo. And it's time for our, we call it the closing power panel or whatever. We're not closing the show, but we're closing the day. So let's see who we're doing it with. I'm going to introduce them very briefly, and they're going to just tell them one thing about themselves that changed today. They don't know that's what they're going to do, but they do now. Tom, lead us away. One thing that changed today, and by the way, introduce yourself first. That buys you a little extra time before your epiphany.
My name is... I'm Tom Lounibos. I'm the CEO and founder of SOASTA, and we're a cloud testing company here and such. So what's changed today? Well, this one was a pretty big one. Tomorrow morning I was due to fly to London, and what changed today is a cloud kept me from going to London.
Okay, well, that qualifies. Dipto, you've got to beat that.
Dipto Chakravarty, General Manager of Cloud Security at Novell. Novell is an infrastructure software company, and happy to be here today. What changed today is the energy, the audience that we saw this morning when I came in, and the whole floor was bubbling. And
what? Then it changed into this. That's the change today. No.
Well, even now at this hour, you're not at a bar, you're not at a dinner, and you're here listening to us. This is
That's very sweet. That's very clever. Okay, Kathy.
Hi, Jeremy. Kathy Minter. I'm president of Cordys in the Americas. Cordys is an integrated software platform that provides a lot of cloud orchestration and management. And what changed about me today is, for anyone out here, I'm never ever parking in the parking garage right across the street.
Okay, I like that. And last but not least, Bill.
Good evening. Bill Karpovich, CEO of Zenoss. We are fastest growing enterprise network IT monitoring and management product today. We unify visibility into cloud, physical, and virtual infrastructure and deliver it in a commercial open source model. I think what changed for me today, I had the fortune of being involved with a lot of the Cloud 1.0 companies, first web hosting company, first SaaS company, and way back when. And I thought this was Cloud 2.0, but I think I realized it's actually Cloud 3 or 4.0 today.
Oh, I like that. Can we have that in writing? Well, I'll speak with you afterwards. We are going, I know why they're here. You've forgotten why they're here. They're here because we were going to unpack the business value of the cloud, and no one else did that today, and they're saying, so I want to hear. And we're going to start unpacking with Kathy. Kathy,
well,
the business
as
value...
we've talked about before, I mean, the cloud, the way we define cloud is really from a business perspective.
Right.
And it's to say it's really a set of enabling technologies and tools, and at the end of the day, it's about getting business done. It's about what's available today to innovate your business and take advantage of new business models and paradigms. So where you're extending your supply chains, you're creating additional collaboration, fostering new communities. The cloud enables, it's an exciting new set of technologies. It's evolving and it's changing every day. So what we see today, next month will be different, and next month, so it's about how can companies take advantage of what is available today, the ones that are going to embrace it, are going to leapfrog ahead of their competitors and be able to take advantage of, changing competitive models. So, that's how we really view it, not from so much a technology infrastructure perspective, but at the top level business.
So to condense it, it is IT innovation, but your interest is that it's the fabric of business innovation.
It's about how businesses are going to operate and run their businesses going forward. I think that's really the crux of the ultimate message at the highest level.
Okay, who wants to go after that? Tom?
It's really, as she just said, it's doing things that you couldn't do before. Whether it's in testing in my business, where the dirty little secret in web applications is any of us that have been pushing out consumer-based applications to the web haven't done performance testing because it was too expensive to do. The ability to simulate 100,000 users would require 8,000 or 9,000 servers, and I would say that nobody that I know would have 8,000 or 9,000 servers in a test lab. And so having the cloud available to us where we can provision 1,000 servers in 6 or 7 minutes and target applications like TurboTax, simulate their users filing taxes and then monitoring. just could not have been done in any of those capacities. They spent millions of dollars to simulate 4,000 users, let alone 300,000 users hitting their site. So really the cloud enables you to do things in the business side that you just could not do 4 years ago or 3 years ago, or in some cases 6 months ago.
Dipto?
One of the call-outs I'd like to make is, given the market is slow, the economy is slow, it's actually going to help the cloud adoption quicker, because if you look at it from a pain points of the CIOs and the business owners, what they're looking at is a paradigm shift, and it's no longer a choice, but they're having to shift their CapEx to OpEx, which is really makes the cloud solutions affordable. To his point earlier, you couldn't have performance tested or benchmarked 10, 12,000 systems like that, but now you could provision it, you could rent that capability just in time, just for the duration that you need it. And that's pretty powerful to be able to just have your workload be elastic so you can subscribe to it, have it, finish it, and then no longer have to deal with that.
Bill?
I think my perspective on this is just as I spent so much time years ago selling the value of first generation of cloud services and OpEx and CapEx savings that are certainly an important part of it. Not until I was running Zenoss and we had to have our own IT deployed that I really, really, really appreciate the value. And what I found was a simple pattern that everything that we decided to do in the cloud worked. and worked.
That's good.
Which was great, right? And didn't require a whole lot of conversation and simply did what it was supposed to do. And every project that we decided to do in a more traditional way, we were having conversations about, and too many conversations about. And so I think it's the capital cost, the operational cost, but really the opportunity cost of not being focused on what your core business is, which you hit as well, I think is one of the key values that is most difficult to measure, but for me has been, as a user, the most poignant and powerful.
All right, 4 perspectives on the business value of the cloud, but what are we missing? A room full of people who've come to Cloud Computing Expo. Did they get close to unpacking the business value of the cloud? I think there's a gentleman over there by the name of Rohit who thinks you've missed something. I'm only guessing.
We've been set up.
Can I have a second mic?
Question.
No, this wasn't a setup. And I'm only guessing.
He asked me a bunch of questions.
Right. Hi. So basically, I do see that cloud is becoming really big. One thing which is a pain point which in our deployment and other deployments is the testing effort and testing tools available for the cloud computing. So I would like to ask gentlemen and the community that how many testing tools are you using to test your deployment in the cloud? Are you using the old-fashioned way, or the new way?
Oh, no.
That was a very soft question for Tom.
You can ask any question you want all the rest of the night, because that's a softball setup, perfect for me. We built our own because frankly there wasn't any. The testing software for web applications have always been dominated for 18 years by Mercury Interactive, Rational, and Silk. All 3 companies, great companies, but unfortunately they've been acquired by other companies now that are also good. But most importantly for me, building web applications for 15 years was they were way too expensive, and I had a bit of a religious problem with them because I was building a very dynamic web applications for the last 8 or 9 years, and the idea of using a fat client technology to test a web services-based application made no sense to me. So if nothing else, beyond the fact that there wasn't a really good testing technology, I felt like we needed to bring, I have this comment that I make a lot that I believe in term limits for technology as well. That I live in the Silicon Valley, so of course I do. If we can't innovate beyond technology that's been around for 16 years, if we can't do that in 8 years, then there's either not a business problem or we're just missing it completely. And so our view was there wasn't, to your point, any good testing technologies out there at the time. And the other angle for testing solutions were they all were about the test or creating the test. They weren't about the results and analytics. And as a CEO of a web application company, it was all about the results. And specifically the actionable results. I didn't want to just have a chart. I wanted to know, do I need more servers? Do I need more bandwidth? Do I need more memory? I needed actionable intelligence, and so we created a real-time business intelligence engine. You know, my background is I started a company in '95 called Sagent, and we took it public in 1999. It was an OLAP company, and so we really saw this opportunity, less of testing and more as an OLAP problem, and frankly, the cloud is probably the world's best platform for analytics because of its elasticity and such. So it's all, we built cloud tests from scratch and put a lot of new features from a CEO's perspective of what a CEO or a VP of sales would like to get in terms of metrics, performance metrics, from their number one sales player now going forward, which is the internet.
Ha, there was an answer. Who in the audience uses the cloud in any way, shape, or form? And you may not be a colleague of someone up here who uses it in any way, shape, or form and is convinced of its business value and just wants to tell me at the back there. I mean, tell me, tell the world, of course. You can't change your mind. You're on the hook now.
Well, we are a provider as well, but we converted all of our internal applications to it first, and not only the flexibility, but the ease of use of it, reduced downtime for server upgrades, things like that were incredible for us because our online portal that we run for our customers, they expect it to be there every minute of the day. And it's a fast growth industry, as we all know, so you get a lot of demands on those servers. The other thing that we've seen that was missed with CIOs that we work with is the span of control issue that they have, that every piece of application or hardware or operations, all the way down to power and cooling in a facility that they take on, is a little bit of their time that they don't have in the day because they have responsibility for that. No matter if they have somebody that works for them that's brilliant that does it, it's still a piece of their mind that has to go into that. So freeing up that allows them to go back to what their core value proposition is. And for most of those guys, it is actually really being a software company within the greater organization. You know, if you're a bank, it's your banking portal and your application there. That's all software. Same thing goes for a lot of the other online companies.
There you are. I'm going to hop back up because I'm going to try and ambush this panel again with something new because I can see it's late. We need to give them some love too. And this is very simple, and perhaps we'll start with you, Dipto, because I know you're going to duck out of this. This is a Novell question, I suppose. We're not talking, we're talking in the sessions, but we haven't talked so much here on the Power Panel stage about open source. We don't really talk about that. Open source and cloud computing, there's a huge synergy going on there, and I'm not hearing so much about it. Catch us up on that.
So with open source is a great touch point, and you should chime in. You should chime in there as well, Bill.
Count on that.
It's
now he's leaning.
It's the couple of points he made that's should be called out. One is, as we get from physical to virtual to cloud, whether you're looking at B2V or V2V, the key call out is these three topologies or these three configurations have to coexist. They coexist today. 70% of it is physical, 29% of it is virtual, maybe 1% of it is cloud, but those numbers are going to shift very quickly. Now, the key call out is the management tool for each one of these physical, virtual, as well as cloud systems are different. The opportunity exists in unifying the one set of management tools that can actually coherently let you manage across the physical, virtual, and cloud boundaries. That's how you would actually reduce your upkeep and your TCO aspects. Add to that the open source. If you intelligently choose which ones are open source, which ones are mixed source stacks, which ones are completely closed source stacks, those three stacks will allow you to build the best business value in terms of what works well, what will be easy to maintain, what will always be upgradable, and what will be future-proofed. Otherwise, you run the risk of having a proprietary stack, and you're constantly revving the OS, revving the next revision of software. And just because your software higher version numbers you're going to doesn't mean your software is getting better.
Yeah.
I think Bill agrees with that part.
Yeah, great points, all of them. I think when I think about open source in the cloud, I just step back and think about, without open source, frankly, so much of the internet was built on open source technology and is today, still runs on open source technology. And then if we look at our most recent cloud phenomenon with Amazon and Rackspace, clearly very much powered by open source. And you could argue that if we didn't kind of unleash software in the form of open source, and if it wasn't made available to so many innovators who've done so many things with it in a very free way, we simply wouldn't have had the lubricant to cause what is happening today, and still the economics of what happened every day, whether it be a mixed source, and I think there's a lot of roles for open source, but at a fundamental level, it wouldn't have happened. And I think about, and won't continue to grow, and I think about it in two ways, in that cloud and open source are different phenomena on some level, but are bedfellows in that they're a better way to use resources, right? Cloud is a better way to use infrastructure resources, IT talent, and it's kind of the centralization of those hard IT resources. And open source is about how to better leverage human energy to produce great software, and how to distribute that software and augment it and keep it current in a highly evolved way. So there are different ways to better use resources, and they're kind of together, working together to create this experience, and we think it's fundamental. And certainly for our business, we believe it's a great way to build management software, and particularly given all the endpoints that have evolved and are continuing to spawn. That's probably the biggest thing that changed for me today. I realized we have 50 new things to instrument for, and an open source and distributed innovation model is the only way to do that. And so we think it plays a really key role, really, in the overall experience as it goes forward.
I'll just extend upon one of his comments. Is open source? If you saw open source create the internet, open source will actually accelerate the cloud platform, the cloud topology, and I just finished speaking on a cloud security track. I think the nirvana and the holy grail is open source security to secure the cloud.
Yes, very good.
Right, it's about, open source obviously is here to stay, and it's about leveraging all of the existing work, the good work that's been done to create more synergies across what the cloud's going to offer. So it's not about choosing one or the other, or where is it or not. It's about, okay, how do you leverage that work, within, prior to some of the cloud technologies, and create the hybrid models, create the linkages. So I think it's not one cloud, it's 1,000 clouds that are all going to come together.
It's business agility. The acronyms of even the cloud, but open source, bother me because we pick capabilities to solve business problems versus trying to get an acronym or a category. And open source allows us to build faster. It allows for agile development. There's 38 different aspects of our technology that are open source because of speed, because we needed it. And so it's just part of the fabric of the cloud, and it's part of the delivery fabric that delivers business agility for our customers.
While we're talking business value of the cloud, where is a sector, in your view, a segment of our world that hasn't yet moved to the cloud or discovered its value or mined its value, that you just know ought to be doing so? So I guess it depends on where you think people are. Telcos seem to be just arriving, so that might be one of your choices, but have at it. Who should be moving to the cloud, who isn't? Perhaps we can help them through this discussion. Who's missing it?
I think just from an enterprise perspective, I would say there's examples of it, but the manufacturing sector has been a little bit more slow to adopt the cloud, just from an innovation perspective. So where they desperately need it more than anyone right now, I think, in the market today, they're not really adopting it because of necessarily conservative management or just the, in some respects. So there are obviously some that are leading the pack more, but the traditional, real traditional manufacturers, I think, could be leveraging it more for linking PLM systems and product management together in terms of that collaboration on, product development and launching things with a faster time to market. I think that's what we're seeing.
Any other omissions?
I think the fact that we're all hesitating on it really says a lot.
There aren't many people who haven't started moving to the cloud.
We're dealing with so many different vertical markets, and because we're a testing company, we don't have any dog in that hunt. We kind of look at everything. And everybody's dabbling right now, and most people are seeking the most obvious and intuitive applications. So the number one application we see from a testing environment is pretty intuitive, but they're marketing/advertising that are blending traditional methods of advertising with social media. And so, as an example, when Avatar first came out, the movie studio dropped out to a few Twitter and Facebook folks that there's a URL for the early view of the trailer. And 1 million users hit that site within about an hour and a half because of Twitter and Facebook. And so what marketing professionals are beginning to see is this elasticity, and marketing is really every market segment. So it is a little hard to find segments that aren't using it. Certainly when data security is involved, there's more of a hesitancy. So the banking community is a little bit hesitant on it, but not all the way through the banking community.
But healthcare has the same issues, and it's forging ahead, right? So,
I think what's exciting is, and this is why cloud is so difficult to define, is that while everything won't go to the cloud will have affected everything at some level, right? And so whether it be just the adoption of VMware, right, as a virtualization technology, the benefits and the paradigms that we associate with cloud are being pervasive, even if it's not ending up in the public cloud. And that's what, frankly, over the last 3 years has been, after many years of it going very slowly, right? There's a switch that seems to have flicked that is causing, at some level, the penetration of the phenomenon in all of its forms. And I think that's exciting.
Okay, the last question, because we're going to end at some point, but I think this might take a while to answer. It's a sort of history revisionist chance, okay? Because now we've decided the cloud's more or less everywhere. We have to go back in time to find where it hasn't been. So this is a question about what could the cloud have changed, if only? So, I mean, really, it's your point, Kathy. Manufacturing, down the tube. Could the cloud have saved the car industry, for example? Could the cloud have saved the economy, for example? Did it just come too late? What could the cloud have saved, Tom, if only it had come along 10 years ago?
I think you got to be a little careful about the other aspects of making decisions that are not just technology with some of those things, because there's politics and economics that are part of the decisioning process. My view is the empowerment of individuals has never been at a higher point, and there's so many bright people in research. It's my hope that someday we're at a conference where somebody might have discovered or been able to figure out how cancer can be cured because they had access to unlimited compute power as a researcher.
That's lovely.
So I'm hoping that in the future we'll start seeing individuals that are empowered with infinite compute power or some subset of that can find new things, explore new ways of getting around really disastrous diseases and things like that.
That's going to be difficult to top, isn't it? I wouldn't want to be the panelist 2, 3, and 4, but luckily I'm not. Who wants to go next?
I'll pick on pricing of software being one fundamental thing. If had it happened 10 years ago, you would have actually had software priced differently than where it's going now. We are forcing ourselves into a utilization-based, consumption-based model, like electricity that comes to our house, water comes to our house. We are used to paying in that subscription-based model, but when it comes to software, it's still a perpetual license, or it's some sort of a licensing model that seems to be quite different than buying a car, buying a house, buying anything else.
Strange.
So 10 years earlier, it would have forced that, where you actually have a utility-based model which is kind of inevitable right now. You can't stop it.
Although I'll say from our customer, one of the biggest surprises that I've seen is enterprise. Somebody asked me just in a panel just a minute ago, what's the biggest surprise? And it's purchasing agents. Mm-hmm. Because purchasing agents in enterprise companies need visibility, and on-demand services don't give you visibility. They're the most confused individuals around right now because they want to take this on-demand model that is anti-lock-in and swip it around and try to turn it into a site license for the year. And it's, so purchasing is really
exactly
screwed
the
up.
same scenario at our company. The most confused group is the purchasing group right now, which is good.
Wow.
Good to
I
see.
hope they're
that.
not watching this.
Anybody in the audience?
So, well, maybe I'll pick a little bit on the financial services industry, being New Jersey, New Yorker, but, and I'll caveat this by saying the cloud is a technology that doesn't change the minds of the C-level executives. But with that being said, if the cloud was initiated, it really is about full transparency and visibility in an organization.
I see where you're going.
So, and it makes things actionable. So one of the interesting things about dynamic business processes in a cloud environment is to take what is stagnant pieces of data throughout an organization and make it live and actionable. And that drives visibility. For example, just Microsoft spreadsheets can become, live connections to data. We all know as a spreadsheet proliferates throughout an organization from the lowest person on the totem pole, with each iteration, let's just say it becomes a little bit more either worse or better for the person who ultimately is going to see it, and there's really, what is the single source of truth? So I'll just say that probably cloud technology will help create more compliance and transparency, and if that was initiated, perhaps some of the financial issues that occurred over the last 18 months, with some of the institutions, large financial institutions and companies like an Enron, could have been avoided or headed off earlier.
You're good at this game, you guys. This is going to be a tough one. Can you come up with the fourth, Bill?
I'm going to riff instead.
Okay.
I think on Tom's point, I think that is one of the most exciting things is that, no longer is innovation and access to markets and access to applications really restricted to those who have a lot, right? Everyone can go and, frankly, is free to innovate on the cloud platform, which is huge, and it's unlocking huge opportunities. I think one of our customers, the Gilt Group, who does these spot sales, right, and in 24 hours is launching a whole business and shutting it down and starting over, right? What a fascinating innovation, but there's also many other opportunities beyond even fashion retail. And the other part of that that's interesting is how much resistance there often is, frankly, in IT, right? And just the notion still, of course, I think we're making great progress here, of the resistance to the opportunity in order to try to hold on to something, right, that eventually is going to go, right? And I think that's the countervailing force that you still see, but I think what's happening is slowly but surely the rest of the walls are being broken down, and as a consequence, we're up here talking about, the speed and opportunities.
What a foursome. I tell you, you don't duck any questions. I love it. It's time to let you go home, whether you're here in New York City or out there on the World Wide Web, but not before thanking our four panelists in the time-honored fashion. That's Tom Lounibos from SOASTA, Dipto Chakravarty from Novell. Come on, you should be clapping by now. Kathy Minter from Cordys, and Bill Karpovich from Zenoss. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All go home. See you in the morning, bright and early. Remember when those keynotes start? It's early.
Great.